with that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, there have been in a year so far that has been crippled by the strikes and the fact that no production and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's still in the midst of that. There have been a couple of pretty big films. And one of those ones is Godzilla X Kong, which has made well over $500 million. And it's just a fun, stupid movie. It's a stupid movie, but it's pretty damn fun to watch. Well, we already knew that the director of the last two Godzilla Kong movies is now moving on to do another film for A24, and Legendary wants to get moving on a new Godzilla Kong movie fairly quickly, so they now have a brand new director attached. Legendary's Godzilla and Kong. This is in the Hollywood Reporter. Follow-up finds new director and Grant Sputore.
Yeah, Sputore.
Sounds like a He-Man villain. But Grant Sputore, Legendary's Monsterverse has found a new master of disaster. The studio has tapped Grant Sputore to direct the next theatrical outing in the franchise following March's Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. Sputore came up from the world of commercials and, as a feature director, helmed the sci-fi movie I Am Mother, which I did not mind, starring Hilary Swank. The film bowed at Sundance before hitting Netflix in 2019. All right. So they didn't let this question linger for long. Like, I remember when they said that Adam Wingard was going to be moving on because he's going to be directing that movie Onslaught.
Right.
Not to be confused with the Marvel supervillain who is the meshing of Charles Xavier and Magneto into Onslaught. Not that Onslaught. Totally different Onslaught. So he's moved on to do that. And he wanted to do the next Godzilla X Kong movie, but Legendary is just like, and I get it, they're like, we don't want to wait. We want to get moving on the next one. And I think that's probably wise on their part. But I didn't think they'd move and find a new director this quickly, but I suppose it makes sense that they do. Here's the question, though. I think right now, Grant has too small of a filmography for us to have a real handle about how good or how bad of a choice this is. So let me move the question on to this. Do people want more Godzilla X Kong? And I mean, that's not a rhetorical question because, you know, we had the outlandishness of Godzilla versus Kong. Then they stepped up the outlandishness in Godzilla X Kong to like some like really eye-rollingly dumb stuff. I mean, kaiju doing a straight up suplex?
Dumb or awesome?
But I do not deny. I cheered in the audience when that suplex ripped out.
I haven't. It's the one I haven't seen yet. When Ray was showing me clips, I'm like, come on.
I'm like, did he just suplex him? Yes, he did.
The Kong orthodontist
The Kong
was great.
kaiju
dental work.
orthodontics, just like that. That's how easy you can do a crown. But listen, they're fun. The thing made over $500 million. Did really well. So changing directors, bit of a roll of the dice, but let's not pretend that either of these things are Seven, that either of these movies are Oppenheimer. So I don't know. Chris, first of all, thoughts on Grant taking over as the director, and do you think there is still a future for these Godzilla and Kong movies?
I have to be completely honest that I'm not familiar with Grant's work.
Okay.
So
I don't think many people are.
I'm not sure what to expect. I'll have to check out the sci-fi film though. Like Hilary Swank, I like sci-fi. I don't know how I missed that one. I do know how I missed it. Netflix doesn't really promote stuff. That's how I missed it. But I think it's great that, you know, the previous director is moving on. He's going to be doing Onslaught with A24, this action movie. I think it's good for him to kind of spread his wings and do something else, especially after the two Kong films. As long as, look, these for me, we can have both Godzillas, right? We can have the -1 thoughtful, really interesting story that's humanistic and everything. And then we can have our kaiju just wrecking shop.
Yeah.
And sure, there can be a happy medium between them. Someone can make that for me. That'd be delightful. But I don't mind that these are two different schools of thought when it comes to these movies.
My issue is it just starts to feel a little Transformer-y.
That's fair.
It starts because this is not.
That's a good comparison.
This is not the Godzilla of like the first Godzilla or Monarch, which I loved.
Loved Monarch
Or
too.
even King of Monsters. It still was like it felt like it followed in those footsteps.
Sure.
Even though the movie wasn't that great, but it was still like that kind of Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And Kong Skull Island was still within that route. But as soon as they did Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong, it started getting, they're making a turn here. And then when it got to Kong or Godzilla X Kong, I'm like, why is he like running and jumping and doing somersaults? And
Because it looks
this doesn't,
cool.
it looks to me
'Cause
silly and it loses all of its like weight. And I'm watching Monarch and I'm like, I like this.
Monarch, I think, is probably more of the standard.
Yeah.
It hits both of those things, right?
I'm
Where you
just
have
saying.
human stories,
I'm just
but then you have this.
saying, fine, they did this, but let's kind of like reel it back a little bit here.
But
You need to see this one though,
but
too,
here's
because
the
the
thing,
suplex
though.
I think is delightful.
I saw the suplex.
the suplex is, I pretty much jumped out of my chair. I did. But reel it back. Legendary is going to hear one message, and that message is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Ray, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it got out of the 300 millions
Oh, let me actually.
at the box office. I just remember it didn't do great. Meanwhile, Godzilla versus Kong, which kind of is their big step into the ridiculous, that movie being like the first big movie to come out in the pandemic era and being day and date release on HBO Max, made $470 million at the box office.
Which one are you looking for? Godzilla
King of the
X?
Monsters.
Oh, King of the
The third
Monsters.
one.
Sorry.
Yeah, the third one. So meanwhile, Godzilla versus Kong, in the midst of all those circumstances, still
387.
387 was
Second
King of the
one,
Monsters. So Godzilla versus Kong comes in, pandemic, day and date release on HBO Max. People could stay to watch at home. Still managed to make way more money than that one did. And then they come out with an even more ridiculous Godzilla X Kong, and that thing makes somewhere in the $550 million range.
I wonder if it's Kong.
So it's absolutely Kong.
No, but because like Kong Skull Island did great for what
Kong
it
Skull
was,
Island, I
and-
think, is the highest grossing of the Monsterverse. So what you have is you have Legendary sitting there saying, okay, we saw what the first Godzilla was and what Godzilla King of the Monsters did. Hell, we even saw what Godzilla -1 did. Godzilla -1 won an Academy Award. People who saw it loved it. Made about $100 million. But we keep leaning into this Godzilla Kong suplexing, riding a mighty steed across the plane eternal, and it's crossing $500 million. That's what Legendary is saying. So I can pretty much guarantee you, because you may be right, Jonathan. I don't disagree that you may be right. But I can guarantee you Legendary is going to lean more into that
Yeah.
as they go, because
Well-
that's what's making them, that's what people are going out to see.
Transformers made a lot of money too. I'm not saying it's
Until
not
they didn't.
Right. So
Right? Transformers made a lot of money until they didn't.
Yeah.
So maybe that cliff is coming for Godzilla and Kong. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Perfect Jean. Guys, are you tired of the rough and rigid jeans crushing your boys? Well, today's sponsor, The Perfect Jean, finally solved all of your denim difficulties. They make great looking, perfect fitting jeans that are as comfortable as sweatpants. The secret? A special denim fabric that is super soft and has the perfect amount of stretch so you can squat, do yoga, or just sit around all day without ever having to take them off. I'm going to admit I was a little bit skeptical because to me, jeans have always been jeans. They're practical, but not always the most comfortable. But I'm telling you guys, it's not an exaggeration. Once I put on these jeans, the Perfect Jean redefined what jeans can be to me. They're the perfect fit, they stretch, they breathe, and again, they're just insanely comfortable. So guys, it's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc/Campea15. Our listeners get 15% off your first order plus free shipping, free returns and free exchanges when you use code Campea15 at checkout. Again, that's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc/Campea15 and use the code Campea15. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the John Campea Show and tell them we sent you. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? They're moving forward with the next Godzilla and Kong film. They got themselves a new director. Do you think the train can keep on going, or is it time, like the Transformers franchise, that at some point they just don't anymore? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.